The world is closely watching as international markets and political leaders react to President Donald Trump's newly imposed tariffs. Before we dive into the details, make sure to subscribe to stay updated on global politics, market trends, and breaking news that directly impacts you. Now let's get into it. The latest U.S. tariffs took effect early this morning, and Canada wasted no time responding. Trump's vision of making America rich again and making America great again is unfolding rapidly, but not without resistance. As of March 4th, Trump introduced a 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican imports, sending shockwaves through North America's trade relationships. Canada, long considered the cool-headed neighbor of the United States, is now at the forefront of a major trade battle, retaliating with some of its harshest economic countermeasures in history. Trump, confident in his economic strategies, seemed to assume that Canada and Mexico would quietly accept these tariffs. However, that has not been the case. His move, which targets not only steel and aluminum but also key industries like automotive and energy, is shaking the very foundation of the North American free trade network. Canada was not about to back down. The economic sanctions Trump has imposed since taking office have met fierce resistance. While he may have underestimated Canada's resolve, the country has now proven its willingness to stand firm. Even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do, was the sentiment echoed by economic experts and Canadian officials alike. As soon as Trump's tariffs took effect on March 4th, Canada retaliated with a powerful list of countermeasures, shaking industries across the United States. The response includes tariffs on sensitive American products such as steel, aluminum, automotive parts, trucks, agricultural goods, and even food, items that impact everyday American consumers. Beyond additional taxes, Canada is also considering cutting off the supply of critical resources such as crude oil, natural gas, and electricity. Canadian provincial leaders have made it clear. We will cut off your energy, sending shockwaves through U.S. refineries and consumers. With a retaliatory tariff list totaling $17 billion in U.S. goods, Washington now finds itself cornered. Trump famously declared, "Trade wars are easy to win," but Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is making sure this one will not be so simple. As tensions rise, Mexico is also preparing its own response, further complicating North America's trade landscape. Within the United States, opposition is growing. Farmers, manufacturers, and industry leaders are voicing concerns over these aggressive protectionist measures. With two of the world's largest trading partners now at odds, the global market faces uncertainty. Will economic logic prevail, or are the US and Canada on the brink of a prolonged trade battle? We dive deeper into the unfolding situation, analyzing whether these escalating tensions will lead to negotiations or a full-scale economic standoff. Trump's trade policies aim to prioritize American industry and reduce the national trade deficit, but they have also strained relations with key allies like Canada. The United States and Canada share a trade partnership worth over $900 billion annually, yet these tariffs threaten to undermine that relationship. In response, Canada swiftly introduced counter-tariffs on U.S. imports, covering a wide range of products. Trudeau made it clear, "We will not bow to unfair decisions." Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly reinforced this stance, stating, "We are prepared for this trade war." The tariffs imposed by the United States include 25% on all Canadian and Mexican exports, 10% on Canadian energy products, and 20% on select Chinese imports. Trudeau's countermeasures include 30 billion CAD in retaliatory tariffs with the potential to escalate to 125 billion CAD, which is about 107 billion USD within weeks. The first wave of these tariffs targets over 1,256 American products including steel and aluminum automobiles and trucks, agricultural products, and consumer goods like peanut butter, coffee, liquor, and household appliances. Canada's non-tariff retaliation and provincial leadership. Beyond tariffs, Canada is considering non-tariff measures, including restrictions on exports of critical minerals, energy supplies, and key industrial partnerships. Provincial leaders, particularly in Ontario and Quebec, are driving much of this retaliatory response. Ontario Premier Doug Ford warned, "Half of the nickel you use comes from us. If we cut it off, your production stops." Additionally, Canadian leaders have hinted at banning American companies from government contracts, canceling partnerships, such as Starlink satellite projects, and limiting electricity exports to the U.S. These measures have triggered widespread concern among American businesses, with some industries fearing supply chain disruptions. Escalating trade tensions and the road ahead. Trump has hinted at imposing even higher tariffs on food and agricultural products, one of the strongest pillars of U.S.-Canada trade. With millions of dollars in food products crossing the border daily, This move could have severe consequences for American farmers. Trudeau's government is making it clear. The cost of these tariffs will be felt by American industries just as much as Canadian businesses. Ontario Premier Doug Ford reinforced this point. We have the power to stop production because the raw materials you rely on, nickel, steel, even electricity, come from us. With opposition growing on both sides, the question remains, will the US and Canada reach a trade agreement, or will this dispute escalate into a prolonged economic conflict? For now, the world watches as two of the largest trading partners stand on the brink of a full-scale trade war. State governors are increasingly alarmed. If the US continues treating Canada this way, trade relations could be severed abruptly, like a knife slicing through decades of economic ties. The question they now face is, who will buy our products if we alienate our largest trading partners? While immediate action may not be easy, even strong rhetoric from politicians could shift the conversation in Washington. The phrase "when Canada's patience runs out" is rarely heard in history, but that is precisely where we stand today. President Trump has repeatedly stated that trade wars are easy to win, but will this bold claim hold true, or will it spiral into an economic nightmare? If Canada imposes restrictions on U.S. oil and natural gas, it could send refineries and industrial hubs from Texas to Louisiana into turmoil. These facilities rely heavily on Canadian heavy crude, making them vulnerable to supply disruptions. Similarly, American automobile production is deeply interwoven with Canadian-sourced parts. Should Canada impose tariffs or slow down exports, car prices would soar, production would decline, and jobs would be at risk. Trump insists that his tariffs are designed to protect American workers and industries, but the strategy may backfire. Instead of safeguarding jobs, it could trigger economic blowback that raises prices for both businesses and consumers. A similar scenario is unfolding with Mexico. After Trump imposed 25% tariffs, the Mexican government responded with a firm stance. If you hit us hard, we will seek other markets or impose our own countermeasures. His refusal to negotiate exemptions undermines the deep integration established under NAFTA, a framework that has shaped North American trade for decades. The automobile, agriculture, steel, and electronics industries, built on cross-border supply chains, are now at risk of fragmentation. Canada's swift retaliation, totaling $17 billion in counter-tariffs, is a significant escalation. This response underscores a broader message. If the U.S. imposes tariffs, we will reciprocate. While Trump reassures his supporters with slogans like, "I'm making America strong again" through protectionism, Canadian and Mexican leaders counter with their own messages, labeling these tariffs as a betrayal by their closest neighbor. One of the most critical questions looming over this crisis is whether Canada will go as far as cutting off energy exports to the United States. Experts believe such a drastic move is unlikely in the short term, given its economic consequences. However, the mere suggestion of an energy blockade has already sparked panic among U.S. refiners and industry leaders. Lobbyists are actively pressuring Washington to end these tariffs now, or will face a crisis. Domestic industries retaliate by pressuring their own government. Canada understands this leverage well. As one official put it, if we impose counter-tariffs, American refineries and consumers will suffer the most. President Trump remains defiant, declaring, "Tariffs are a powerful weapon, and they deliver justice." He insists his approach is the right one, dismissing past U.S. presidents, even Ronald Reagan, as failures when it came to trade. Yet, billionaire investor Warren Buffett offers a starkly different view. Trade wars ultimately become economic wars, hurting everyone. Prices rise, industries suffer, and no one truly wins. Canada's retaliation, targeting $17 billion worth of U.S. goods, only strengthens Buffett's warning. The impact is already being felt. Stock markets in the U.S. are fluctuating. The Canadian dollar is losing value. Investment decisions are being postponed. Economic uncertainty is paralyzing businesses. The Bank of Canada has issued a grave warning. If this tariff war continues, Canada's economic output could shrink by up to 3% within 2 years. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce has voiced strong opposition, stating, "Trade uncertainty is our worst enemy. Our retaliatory tariffs will stay in place until the U.S. withdraws its trade actions. We are actively considering additional non-tariff measures." Prime Minister Justin Trudeau echoed this sentiment, confirming that Canada will not accept Trump's demands without fighting back. In response to Trump's insistence that Canada and Mexico cannot avoid these wide-ranging tariffs, Canada made it clear, "We will respond proportionally." The United States and Canada share one of the world's largest bilateral trade relationships, valued at over $900 billion in goods and services annually. Canada is the biggest single buyer of U.S. goods, and vice versa. However, with tensions escalating, market confidence is deteriorating. The S&P/TSX Composite Index fell by 1.5%, the largest drop since December. Investors are increasingly betting on a Bank of Canada interest rate cut at its upcoming meeting. Trump's executive order, signed on February 1st, imposes 25% tariffs on most U.S. imports from Canada and Mexico, and 10% tariffs on Canadian energy products, including crude oil, natural gas, and uranium. The Bank of Canada has warned that a prolonged tariff war would severely damage economic growth. Canadian exporters would suffer, production would decline, and American consumers would see rising prices. The long-term consequences of trade wars. Matthew Holmes, head of public policy at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, criticized Trump's unpredictable approach. The uncertainty created by Trump's constant tariff threats has already hurt businesses on both sides of the border. We are far from regaining trust in our economic partnership. He added, businesses cannot constantly restructure their operations to avoid tariffs, only to switch back when political decisions change. Canada's retaliation, a major blow to the United States economy. Canada's countermeasures include tariffs on $17 billion worth of U.S. goods, Ontario threatening energy and nickel exports, and Alberta considering cutting off electricity supplies. Despite this, Trump remains resolute, saying, "If you retaliate, I'll impose a second wave of tariffs." The need for diplomatic intervention. With tensions escalating, it is in everyone's interest for diplomacy to take center stage. If a reasonable agreement is not reached soon, this trade war could severely damage not only Canada and Mexico, but also the United States and the global economy. The world is now watching closely. Will Canada take the drastic step of cutting oil and electricity exports? Will the United States and Canada find common ground before this economic battle deepens? Perhaps the best way to summarize the situation comes from Warren Buffett. In the end, the public always pays the price for trade wars. Who do you think is right? Will Canada's harsh retaliation force Trump to reconsider, or will he hold his ground? The consequences of this escalating trade war are unfolding before our eyes. With economic uncertainty mounting, companies on both sides of the border struggling, and leaders digging in their heels, one question remains. Will diplomacy step in before lasting damage is done? Or will this trade war spiral further out of control? What do you think? Will Canada's bold retaliation force Trump to reconsider, or will he escalate even further? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to stay informed on the latest global developments.